You are now excited to lodge your visa. You've got all your documentation ready, so you think, and your friend says to you, why don't you use a registered migration agent? I've got a great agent you can use. And you think, what's a registered migration agent? Well, tune in and you'll find out exactly what it is. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for joining. We have a very special guest here today for this topic. It is none other than Christina Amato, a senior registered migration agent with iMigration, and also another special guest here, little Daisy girl. Christina, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So a lot of people are always asking, what is a migration agent? Tell us, what's a registered migration agent?
So in short, a migration agent is someone who you can engage to give migration advice to you. So we basically act as somebody that can liaise with the Department of Home Affairs on your behalf.
Beautiful.
And lodge applications for you.
So that's really good to know. The way I kind of describe this role to a lot of people is, yes, you can lodge your visa yourself, or you can use a registered migration agent, just like you can lodge your own tax return, or you can use an accountant to do it for you. I like to use that example because it then makes people think, oh yeah, you're right. Why do I use an accountant to save me time, save me money, get me more deductions? Same when it comes to migration. They're very expensive. You don't want to mess things up yourself. So tell us a little bit about your journey. What made you want to become a registered migration agent?
So I guess my journey is a bit strange. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I got out of uni. So I started applying for jobs and I got a job here. And I just saw how much
at
iMigration.
Yes.
And I saw how much I got to know a little bit more about the profession and how everything works, and it just really interested me. I saw you guys interacting with your clients, and I just thought it would be a really beneficial profession to be in. You get to help people every day, and it's just a fun thing to do.
Good. So you decided, I'm going to be a registered migration agent. So what was the process?
So the process was first you have to have an undergrad. Then you enroll into the Graduate Diploma of Migration Law.
Yes.
So once you've finished that, you then have to sit a capstone exam. So the Graduate Diploma goes for about a year.
Yes.
And then you have to sit an entrance exam, which is 3 separate exams.
And what did you cover in this year, in this Graduate Diploma of Australian Migration Law? What sort of subjects, what sort of units did it cover? Sorry.
So it covers a bit of an overview of everything to do with the migration profession. She looks so cute, sorry.
That's all right. She is very cute, isn't she?
It covers just an overview of everything to do with the migration profession. So at first it's just because you don't have to have a legal background to necessarily start. So they give you sort of an overview of how the law works, what legislation is, how to interpret legislation, regulations, things like that. So that's sort of the first few subjects, and then you go into more of a breakdown of the different type of visas that you can apply for.
So it's specific training that starts first on law, interpretation, legislation, and then really hones down into actual Australian migration law, the different subject areas and matters and everything like that.
Yeah, correct.
So you said there was a year studying that, and then after that you said something about capstone. What's capstone? It sounds like something out of a Jason Bourne movie. What is capstone?
So capstone is a very difficult exam that we had to sit. So it used to be with a different provider. It's just recently changed to Legal Training Australia. But it's just sort of like a very big entrance exam.
Yes.
It's got a very high fail rate.
Ooh, how high?
At the moment, the pass rate's only at about 40-something%.
So more than half the people will fail that capstone.
Correct,
And then I assume not go on and become a registered migration agent.
Yeah, or sit the expensive exam multiple times.
Wow. And you passed it with flying colours, I hear.
Yeah, so I passed. Luckily, I passed on the first go. I was very proud of myself.
Luckily, you must be very good at what you do. Now, how long have you been a registered migration agent for?
So I officially registered in 2021.
Beautiful. So you've been doing it for several years now, and prior to that, as you said, you were working with iMigration. When did you start your journey with iMigration in this law firm?
So just over 4.5 years ago, I started here.
Wow. So it's been a long journey.
Big journey,
So good for you. And what areas of law do you enjoy working in migration?
At the moment, I'm really enjoying business-sponsored visas. That's the area that I specialise in here. So every single migration agent or lawyer specialises in different areas at iMigration.
And you like to stick in that area. As a registered migration agent, I understand that you need to maintain a level of knowledge each year, and you need to do what is it called? CPD?
Continuing professional development.
Tell us about that. What does CPD mean, and how does it work for a migration agent?
So it basically works in that we have to do a certain amount of training every year. So we have a certain amount of points that we have to reach, and we do different trainings throughout the year, and different training awards you a certain amount of points, and you have to reach a certain amount of points to then re-register into the following year.
And how many points is that? Was that what, 10 points
10
a year
points,
or something?
yeah.
So you have to, every year before the anniversary of your registration, make sure that you've maintained 10 different areas of competency or whatnot. Now, can you give us examples on what those kind of areas are? And what is the rationale behind having to do that on an annual basis?
So depending on what you practice in, you can focus on certain areas. So for example, I would prefer to focus on things that are relevant to what I do daily. So something like in business-sponsored visas, I can brush up on my knowledge, or different areas of business-sponsored visas that I haven't touched on. And each agent has to study a certain amount of ethics points each year as well, which just keeps the profession a bit cleaner.
Yeah, that sounds really important. So whilst we're on the matter of ethics, I believe there's something called a code of conduct. Is that correct?
Yes,
Tell
that's
us
correct.
about that.
So migration agents are bound by a code of conduct, which means that we have certain rules and regulations that we must abide by in how we practice our in day-to-day.
Yes. And if you break that code of conduct or breach it, what happens? Are there punishments?
Yeah, so we can be sanctioned by, there's an authority called the Migration Agents Registration Authority.
The OMARA.
The OMARA, yes.
Yes.
So they can sanction agents and punish agents that aren't practicing ethically or aren't treating their clients with the level of respect or professionalism
yes.
that they need.
And I understand that the OMARA is now beginning to step up their game and take things a little bit more seriously, because I know from experience I've dealt with many cases over the years where I've picked up a lot of work where other registered migration agents didn't do a particularly good job and left them hanging, led to refusals and whatnot. And they reported them to OMARA, and it took years until any action was taken, which was really disappointing. But I believe now OMARA has kind of got their act together a bit, a little bit more funding probably behind them, and they are trying to clean up the profession somewhat, because I know that sometimes the profession gets a bit of a bad name because it used to be relatively easy to become a registered migration agent, but now it's becoming increasingly more difficult. I mean, years ago when I registered back in 2009 or something like that, it was a 6-month graduate certificate. Now it's a 1-year graduate diploma, and then you said after that there's another year of practicing and capstone and this and that. They've stepped up with requirements for CPDs and whatnot. So I feel the profession has cleaned up somewhat. Would you say that there is an advantage with your knowledge being a registered migration agent over someone trying to do things themselves? What is an advantage of using a registered migration agent?
We have the background knowledge of how to present everything to the department and what exactly the department look for in an application, whether it be certain documents.
And how do you find that out? Because the everyday person will just go, I'm going to the immigration website, click, it's a bit. So how do you do your research? I'm sure you just don't go to the immigration website.
Yeah, so there's a few other ways that we can do it. There's migration policy, which gives us a bit of an insight on what it is that case officers look for, and also just the advantage of this is our bread and butter. We do it every day, so it's something that we just have the advantage of having the knowledge.
So you look at immigration policy, you've got experience doing it. You also interpret regulations and instruments, I presume, when changes come out, instead of just reading websites. So tell us about that. How do you access these materials?
So each migration agent needs to have access to a certain professional library. So we have something which is called LegendCom, which is just an online subscription that shows us all of the Migration Act, the migration legislation and policy that it's updated very regularly.
Okay, wonderful. And that's like a bit of a godsend to try and interpret changes when they occur, because migration changes happen all the time, more than the seasons in a day in Melbourne. So it's very important that you keep on top of it, and you can't be relying just on websites when you're trying to make a migration application. If you get a visa refused, what are you going to say when you're doing an appeal? Oh, but the website said this. You can't. So it's very
Yeah.
important you keep on top of that. So what else do you do to keep on top of your knowledge? You said you read regulations, policies. What else? Are you members?
Yeah, we
of
have
anything?
professional memberships
Yeah.
with migration institutes. We also are members of professional forums and things where we can communicate with other professionals within the field and get
Yes.
some ideas. And yeah,
And I think what's important as well is collaborating.
exactly.
I think
yeah.
where you work at the moment with iMigration, you're not just a sole trader working on your own. You're privileged enough to be able to work with other professionals where you can brainstorm together and come up with ideas and whatnot. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. And it gives us the advantage of having multiple different insights into the same topic.
So we'll go back to some of the advantages once again of using a registered migration agent. What would you say they are?
There's a lot, but to
Yes.
summarise, it would be that we're the point of contact between you and the department. So we represent you, we collect all of your documents, we organise everything for you. Whenever the department has a query on your case, we're able to respond rapidly, we're able to collect the information from you precisely as to what they're after. And yeah, it makes for a smoother application process for you and less stressful because you have someone to lean on during the process.
Yes, and I like the fact that you said that your agents are accredited, there's a code of conduct, there's professional development that happens. So I guess that pretty much sums it up, the advantages and why you should be using a registered migration agent and what a registered migration agent is. So if you've got any more questions, feel free to put in the comments below, or big shout out here to Christina Amato. Look her up. Hopefully she can assist you all one day. Thanks very much, Christina.
Thank you.